The crowded charity gala fell completely silent the moment a glittering silver pendant slipped from the pocket of a shy teenage waiter and landed across the polished marble floor. Before anyone could react, the wealthiest woman in the room suddenly stepped forward with trembling hands, tears filling her eyes as she stared at the tiny piece of jewelry that seemed impossible to be there. Her voice cracked with pain that had been buried for nearly 18 years as she cried, "That pendant is my son's." Every guest froze in disbelief. Cameras stopped flashing. Conversations died instantly. Even the musicians lowered their instruments. No one understood why one small pendant could make one of the world's most successful billionaires lose her composure in front of hundreds of influential people. But within the next hour, secrets that had remained hidden for almost 2 decades would completely change the lives of everyone in that magnificent ballroom forever. Before we continue this unforgettable journey, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who believes in kindness and second chances, and subscribe to the Unfolded Story Hub channel for more emotional stories that remind us that hope can appear when we least expect it. Sophia Bennett had built an empire from nothing. Her name appeared on magazine covers, business rankings, and charity foundations across the country. People admired her strength, intelligence, and generosity, but very few knew the truth behind the elegant smile she showed the world. 18 years earlier, a devastating hospital fire had turned her happiest day into her greatest nightmare. Only hours after giving birth to her baby boy, confusion filled the maternity ward as smoke spread through the building. Nurses rushed frightened mothers through crowded hallways while emergency workers battled the flames. When the chaos finally ended, Sophia's newborn had disappeared without a trace. Despite years of investigations, private detectives, international searches, and millions of dollars spent, no evidence ever revealed what had happened. Authorities eventually declared the child legally missing, but Sophia never accepted that heartbreaking conclusion. Every birthday she bought a small gift that remained unopened. Every Christmas she placed an extra stocking by the fireplace. Deep inside, she believed that somehow her son was still alive. Across the city lived 16-year-old Ethan Carter, a quiet, hard-working teenager whose life could not have been more different. He shared a tiny apartment with his adoptive father, Daniel, a humble mechanic known throughout the neighborhood for fixing vehicles without charging families who could not afford repairs. Daniel had found Ethan as an abandoned infant outside a small country clinic after the terrible hospital disaster years earlier. Wrapped inside an old blanket was only one possession, a silver pendant engraved with a tiny blue star. Unable to locate the child's parents despite informing local authorities, Daniel legally adopted the baby and raised him with unconditional love. Although money was always scarce, Ethan never felt poor because he grew up surrounded by kindness, honesty, and sacrifice. Daniel skipped meals so Ethan could eat. He worked late into freezing nights to pay school fees. He quietly sold his own treasured motorcycle when Ethan needed surgery after breaking his arm. Ethan never knew how much his father had given up for him because Daniel believed love should never demand recognition. As Ethan grew older, he started working part-time at luxury events to help pay household expenses and save for college. He dreamed of becoming an engineer, hoping one day to design safer buildings after hearing stories about fires that had destroyed families. His determination impressed everyone who met him. He arrived early, worked without complaint, and treated every guest with respect regardless of how they treated him. Yet beneath his calm smile, he often wondered about the mysterious pendant he wore around his neck every day. Daniel had always been honest, telling him he was adopted and that the necklace had been found with him as a baby. Ethan appreciated the truth but never searched for his biological family because he believed his real father was the man who had raised him through every challenge. On the evening of Sophia Bennett's annual charity gala, Ethan volunteered to cover an extra shift because another waiter had become ill. The ballroom sparkled beneath magnificent crystal chandeliers while influential guests discussed investments, philanthropy, and luxury vacations. Ethan quietly served drinks, never imagining that his ordinary workday would become the turning point of his entire life. As he bent down to collect a fallen napkin, the chain around his neck snapped unexpectedly. The silver pendant slid across the floor until it stopped only a few feet from Sophia. One glance was enough to awaken memories she had never forgotten. She recognized every tiny detail, including the unusual blue star engraved by her late husband only days before their son was born. It had been specially designed as a symbol of hope, making it absolutely unique. Sophia's emotional reaction shocked the guests, but Ethan himself felt even more confused. Security guards initially stepped forward, believing the young waiter had somehow stolen valuable property. Sophia immediately stopped them, carefully picking up the pendant with shaking hands. She examined the small scratch near the clasp, exactly where her husband had accidentally dropped it while attaching the chain years ago. Tears rolled freely down her face as decades of grief suddenly collided with impossible hope. Rather than making accusations, she gently asked Ethan where he had gotten the pendant. His honest explanation about being adopted after being found as an infant filled the room with stunned silence. Daniel, who had arrived outside to pick Ethan up after work, was quickly invited inside when Sophia requested to meet the man who had raised the boy. Daniel entered the magnificent ballroom wearing worn work clothes stained with engine grease, feeling completely out of place among expensive suits and designer gowns. Yet he walked with quiet dignity because he had nothing to hide. He calmly shared every document proving Ethan's legal adoption and explained how local authorities had never discovered the child's identity. Sophia listened carefully, realizing that the man standing before her had never tried to profit from the situation. Instead, he had devoted 16 years to raising a child who was never biologically his. She saw the calloused hands that came from years of honest labor and understood that true wealth could never be measured by bank accounts. Although the pendant seemed convincing, Sophia insisted that emotions alone should not determine the truth. A DNA test was arranged immediately with everyone's agreement. The following days became emotionally exhausting for all three families connected by fate. Sophia barely slept, terrified that hope might once again end in heartbreak. Ethan struggled with confusing emotions, afraid that discovering his biological past might somehow betray the father who had sacrificed everything for him. Daniel quietly reassured Ethan that love was never divided by truth. He reminded the young man that learning where he came from would never erase the years they had shared together. Those simple words revealed the remarkable character of the man who had chosen compassion over fear. When the official results finally arrived, the laboratory confirmed with overwhelming certainty that Ethan was indeed Sophia Bennett's long-lost son. The announcement left everyone speechless. Sophia embraced Ethan through tears of joy, grief, gratitude, and disbelief all at once. Yet what moved everyone even more was Ethan's immediate decision to turn toward Daniel and wrap him in an equally emotional embrace. He publicly declared that finding his biological mother had answered one lifelong question, but it could never replace the father who had loved him every single day without expecting anything in return. The room erupted into heartfelt applause as countless guests wiped away tears. Sophia's gratitude toward Daniel extended far beyond words. She offered him financial rewards that would have allowed him to retire comfortably for the rest of his life. Daniel politely refused every offer except one. He asked only that Ethan be given every educational opportunity he deserved. Sophia admired that extraordinary humility and instead created a scholarship foundation in Daniel's name to help thousands of adopted and underprivileged children pursue higher education. The foundation quickly became one of the country's most respected charitable programs, proving that one man's quiet kindness could transform countless lives he would never personally meet. As months passed, Ethan learned to balance both worlds without choosing one over the other. He spent weekends helping Daniel repair old cars just as he always had, while also getting to know Sophia and the family history that had been stolen from them years earlier. Together they visited the memorial built where the old hospital once stood, honoring every family affected by that tragic fire. Instead of allowing the past to define their pain, they transformed it into hope for others through fire safety campaigns, adoption support programs, and scholarships for young engineers committed to building safer hospitals. If this story has touched your heart so far, please take a moment to like this video, share it with your friends and family, leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the Unfolded Story Hub channel so more people can discover stories that celebrate compassion, forgiveness, and hope. Before this story comes to an end, we have one special request for you. Please comment below with the words, "Kindness always finds its way." We'd love to know that you believe even the smallest act of love can change someone's entire future. Years later, reporters often asked Sophia what the greatest investment of her extraordinary life had been. They expected her to mention successful companies, charitable foundations, or record-breaking business achievements. Instead, she would simply smile and point to an old silver pendant resting around her son's neck. She explained that fortunes could disappear overnight, success could come and go, but genuine love always found a way to return home. Daniel would quietly stand beside them, never seeking attention, knowing that the greatest reward for his lifetime of sacrifice was watching the boy he had once rescued become a compassionate man who carried two families in one grateful heart. In the end, it was never the pendant itself that changed everything. It was the kindness of an ordinary man, the hope of a grieving mother who refused to stop believing, and the courage of a young man who proved that family is not defined only by blood, but by every sacrifice, every sleepless night, every comforting embrace, and every selfless act of love. Sometimes destiny whispers through the smallest objects, and sometimes a forgotten pendant carries not just a memory, but an entire lifetime waiting to be found. Those who witnessed that unforgettable evening never again looked at strangers the same way, because they realized that every person carries a story hidden beneath the surface, and sometimes one unexpected moment of truth is enough to heal hearts that have waited a lifetime to become whole.